Have you ever noticed that some people ask a lot of personal questions the first time you meet them? At first it feels normal. Maybe they ask about your job, your relationships, your past experiences, or even things that make you uncomfortable. And because the conversation feels friendly, you answer honestly. But later, something strange happens. During an argument, a disagreement, or even a casual conversation, that same person suddenly brings up something you told them earlier. Maybe they mention your past mistake. Maybe they bring up something you were insecure about. Maybe they use a detail about your life in a way that puts you in a weak position. And in that moment, you realize something uncomfortable. Those questions were not just curiosity. They were information gathering. Some people ask personal questions not because they care about you, but because they want to understand how you think, what you fear, what bothers you, and what kind of reactions they can trigger in you. Once someone understands those things, influencing you becomes much easier. Human conversations are full of questions. Asking questions is one of the main ways people get to know each other. Most of the time, this is completely normal and healthy. But there is a difference between getting to know someone and studying someone. When people genuinely want to know you, their questions feel natural. They ask things out of interest and the conversation flows normally. But when someone is studying you, their questions have a different purpose. They are not just listening to your answers. They are observing how you react. They notice what makes you uncomfortable. They notice what topics make you emotional. They notice what makes you defensive. Every reaction gives them information, and information gives people influence. Imagine a new colleague at work who seems very friendly. During lunch, they start asking questions about your job history. How long have you worked here? Have you ever had problems with management? What do you think about your boss? At first, these questions seem harmless, but they are actually collecting information. If you mention that you are worried about job security, they now know something important about you. They know what makes you cautious. Later, during a disagreement at work, they might say something like, "You probably shouldn't push this issue too much. It could create problems with management." That sentence suddenly has power because they already know your fear. They didn't guess it. You told them earlier. Real-life example, friendships. This also happens in friendships. Sometimes someone asks very personal questions early in a friendship. What happened in your last relationship? What kind of people hurt you in the past? What are you most insecure about? When someone asks these questions in a caring way, it can feel safe to open up. But sometimes the same person later brings those topics back in arguments. Imagine telling a friend that betrayal hurt you deeply in the past. Later, during a disagreement, they say something like, "You're overreacting. Maybe that's why people always leave you." Now they are using your vulnerability as a weapon. And the reason they can do that is because they learned your weakness earlier. This behavior often happens because understanding someone's emotional triggers gives people power in conversations. When someone knows what makes you insecure, they know how to weaken your confidence. When someone knows what makes you angry, they know how to provoke you. When someone knows what you fear losing, they know how to pressure your decisions. This is why manipulators often ask many questions early on. They are not just making conversation. They are mapping your emotional landscape. Think about the conversations you've had with certain people. Have you ever noticed someone asking very specific questions about things that make you uncomfortable? Maybe they asked about your financial situation. Maybe they asked about past failures. Maybe they asked about family problems. At first, those questions might have seemed friendly, but later, the same information appeared again in conversations where it gave them an advantage. That pattern is usually not accidental. If this topic feels familiar, you're probably not the only one who has experienced this kind of situation. Human conversations can sometimes hide subtle psychological dynamics that we only notice later. If you find these insights helpful, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. This channel explores hidden patterns in human behavior, manipulation, and everyday psychology. And if there's a specific topic you'd like to understand better, write it in the comments so we can explore it in future videos. Understanding this behavior does not mean becoming suspicious of everyone who asks questions. Many people are genuinely curious and simply want to know you better. The real signal is how that information is used later. If someone asks personal questions but never uses your vulnerabilities against you, that's normal interaction. But if someone repeatedly brings up your insecurities during arguments, disagreements, or moments where they want influence, that pattern reveals something important. It shows that your personal information is being used strategically. One of the simplest ways to protect yourself from this situation is learning to recognize when questions feel too intrusive too early. You don't have to answer every personal question someone asks. Sometimes a simple response like, "I'd rather not go into that right now," is enough to maintain healthy boundaries. People who genuinely respect you will accept that boundary. But people who were trying to study your weaknesses may become uncomfortable when they realize they cannot easily gather that information. Human relationships depend on trust. Sharing personal experiences and emotions can create strong connections when both people respect each other. But awareness is important. Understanding how conversations can reveal vulnerabilities helps you protect your independence and emotional balance. The goal is not to stop trusting people. The goal is to recognize when curiosity is genuine and when it might be strategic. Because once you start noticing these patterns, you will see conversations differently. And when you understand how information creates influence, you gain the ability to protect your own. If this video helped you see human conversations from a different perspective, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more insights into dark psychology, manipulation, and human behavior. And I'd like to ask you something. Have you ever experienced a situation where someone asked personal questions that later felt like they used that information against you? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone else recognize the same pattern in their own life.